Summary of the Grift, The Downward Spiral of Black Republicans from the Party of Lincoln to the Cult of Trump by Clay Kane. Part 1. The narrative provided offers a comprehensive examination of the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, focusing on his role in the abolition of slavery and the broader struggle for racial equality during the Civil War era. By critically analyzing Lincoln's actions, policies, and rhetoric, as well as the contributions of other historical figures like Frederick Douglass, the narrative presents a nuanced understanding of the complexities and contradictions inherent in this pivotal period of American history. Abraham Lincoln is often hailed as the Great Emancipator, celebrated for his role in issuing the Emancipation Proclamation and leading the Union to victory in the Civil War. However, the narrative challenges this idealized portrayal, arguing that Lincoln's approach to slavery and racial equality was far more complex and nuanced than commonly acknowledged. Rather than a steadfast champion of freedom and equality, Lincoln is depicted as a pragmatic politician whose actions were shaped by the exigencies of the time, as well as his own evolving views on race and emancipation. One of the central themes of the narrative is the tension between Lincoln's political pragmatism and his moral convictions. While Lincoln expressed personal opposition to slavery and believed in the equality of all men, his primary goal as president was the preservation of the Union. This overarching objective often dictated his approach to issues of slavery and emancipation, leading to decisions and compromises that may seem morally ambiguous in hindsight. One such example is Lincoln's initial support for policies like the Fugitive Slave Act, which empowered authorities to capture escaped slaves and return them to bondage. While Lincoln personally opposed the institution of slavery, he recognized the political necessity of appeasing slaveholding states to prevent the dissolution of the Union. This pragmatic calculus often required Lincoln to prioritize the preservation of the Union over the moral imperative of ending slavery, leading to decisions that may seem contradictory or hypocritical. Similarly, Lincoln's advocacy for colonization, which involved deporting freed black individuals to other countries, reflects his pragmatic approach to the issue of emancipation. While Lincoln believed that slavery was morally wrong and that black people deserved freedom, he also feared the social and economic consequences of integrating formerly enslaved individuals into American society. Colonization offered a seemingly compromise solution that would appease both abolitionists and slaveholders while avoiding the potential upheaval of racial integration. However, Lincoln's support for colonization was met with skepticism and resistance from black leaders like Frederick Douglass, who saw it as a perpetuation of white supremacy and an affront to the principles of equality and justice. Douglass, himself a former slave-turned-abolitionist, advocated for immediate emancipation and full civil rights for black people, rejecting the notion of colonization as a viable solution to the problem of slavery. The tension between Lincoln's political pragmatism and Douglass's moral absolutism is a recurring theme throughout the narrative, highlighting the complexities of leadership during a time of profound societal upheaval. While Lincoln's eventual embrace of emancipation as a means to weaken the Confederacy and bolster the Union war effort represents a significant turning point in American history, it is portrayed as a strategic maneuver rather than a moral imperative. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued by Lincoln on January 1, 1863, is often hailed as a landmark achievement in the fight against slavery. However, the narrative offers a more nuanced interpretation of this seminal document, contextualizing it within the broader dynamics of the Civil War and Lincoln's own political calculations. While the Emancipation Proclamation declared freedom for enslaved individuals in Confederate-held territory, its impact was limited by practical considerations and political expediency. The proclamation did not immediately free all enslaved individuals, as it applied only to states in rebellion against the Union. Furthermore, it did not abolish slavery in border states loyal to the Union, where slavery remained legal until the ratification of the 13th Amendment in 1865. Moreover, Lincoln's issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation was motivated as much by strategic military considerations as by moral imperatives. By declaring freedom for enslaved individuals in Confederate-held territory, Lincoln hoped to weaken the Confederacy's economic and military infrastructure, as well as to bolster support for the Union cause among abolitionists and black activists. Despite its limitations, the Emancipation Proclamation represented a significant step forward in the fight against slavery and a watershed moment in American history. It signaled the Union's commitment to the eventual abolition of slavery and provided a moral and legal framework for the emancipation of enslaved individuals throughout the country. However, the narrative cautions against romanticizing Lincoln's motives or overlooking the complexities of his leadership. While Lincoln's eventual commitment to emancipation represents a triumph of moral conviction over political expediency, it is portrayed as a gradual and incremental process shaped by the exigencies of war and the shifting dynamics of public opinion. Throughout the narrative, Frederick Douglass emerges as a central figure whose unwavering commitment to the cause of freedom and equality serves as a counterpoint to Lincoln's political pragmatism. As a former slave-turned-abolitionist, Douglass embodied the moral clarity and uncompromising stance that Lincoln sometimes lacked. Douglass's advocacy for immediate emancipation and full civil rights for Black people challenged the prevailing political orthodoxy of the time and pushed Lincoln and other political leaders to confront the moral implications of slavery. His fiery rhetoric and steadfast activism galvanized support for the abolitionist cause and played a crucial role in shaping public opinion during the Civil War era. The narrative also highlights the contributions of other Black leaders and activists who played a vital role in the fight against slavery and racial injustice. Figures like Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and William Lloyd Garrison are celebrated for their courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment to the cause of freedom. In conclusion, the narrative offers a critical reassessment of Abraham Lincoln's legacy, challenging prevailing narratives of his role as the great emancipator. By examining Lincoln's actions, policies, and rhetoric through a nuanced lens and contextualizing them within the broader dynamics of the Civil War era, the narrative presents a more nuanced understanding of the complexities and contradictions inherent in this pivotal period of American history. While Lincoln's eventual commitment to emancipation represents a triumph of moral conviction over political expediency, it is portrayed as a gradual and incremental process shaped by the exigencies of war and the shifting dynamics of public opinion. Through this lens, Lincoln emerges as a complex and multifaceted figure whose legacy continues to be debated and scrutinized in the ongoing struggle for racial justice in America. Part 2. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863, is often lauded as a pivotal moment in American history. Yet its actual impact on the institution of slavery and the lives of enslaved individuals was more nuanced than commonly portrayed. While the proclamation did declare freedom for enslaved people in Confederate-held territories, its jurisdiction was limited to areas in rebellion against the Union. As a result, it did not immediately abolish slavery in the entirety of the United States, leaving many enslaved individuals unaffected by its provisions. Historian Eric Foner estimates that initially, up to 70,000 people were freed by the proclamation, but this number pales in comparison to the approximately 4 million Black people held in bondage at the time. Furthermore, the Emancipation Proclamation did not confer permanent freedom upon those it purported to emancipate. Enslaved individuals freed under the proclamation risked being captured and returned to slavery if they ventured beyond the regions covered by the proclamation or into Confederate-controlled territory. This reality underscores the provisional nature of emancipation under Lincoln's proclamation and highlights the precarious status of freedom for Black Americans during the Civil War era. Moreover, Lincoln's motivations for issuing the Emancipation Proclamation were primarily strategic rather than moral or humanitarian. While the proclamation did align with Lincoln's personal opposition to slavery, its issuance was largely driven by military considerations and the desire to undermine the Confederate war effort. By framing the Civil War as a struggle to abolish slavery, Lincoln sought to rally support for the Union cause both domestically and internationally. Thus, the proclamation should be understood as a wartime measure rather than a definitive declaration of freedom for enslaved individuals. Despite its limitations, the Emancipation Proclamation played a crucial role in shaping the trajectory of the Civil War and elevating the issue of slavery to the forefront of national discourse. By formally committing the Union to the abolition of slavery, the proclamation transformed the character of the war and set the stage for subsequent developments such as the enlistment of Black soldiers in the Union Army and the eventual passage of the 13th Amendment. However, The proclamation's shortcomings and the broader complexities of Lincoln's approach to emancipation and racial equality cannot be overlooked. Frederick Douglass, the renowned abolitionist and former enslaved person, expressed both jubilation and disappointment in response to the proclamation. While initially enthusiastic about its potential to advance the cause of freedom, Douglass later became disillusioned with Lincoln's administration for its failure to adequately protect and empower black soldiers serving in the Union Army. Additionally, Lincoln's reluctance to fully embrace policies that challenged the prevailing systems of white supremacy and racial subordination, such as his handling of the Wade-Davis bill and his advocacy for limited black suffrage, underscores the limitations of his commitment to racial equality. Despite Douglass's evolving perspectives on Lincoln, from initial admiration to later criticism, his unwavering dedication to the freedom and rights of Black Americans serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle for racial justice in American society. Ultimately, while the Emancipation Proclamation represented a significant step towards the abolition of slavery, it also revealed the complexities and contradictions inherent in America's long and tumultuous journey towards racial equality.